My name's Marcus. I'm a structural diver, which is just a fancy way of saying I get paid to inspect underwater foundations, seawalls, bridge pylons, and anything else that sits between concrete and saltwater. It's not glamorous, but it pays. Well, and I like being alone. I've worked up and down the East Coast, but the job I'll never forget was in early spring of 2021. I got contracted by a state-funded restoration group up in Massachusetts. Their concern was a deteriorating breakwater system about a mile offshore from a retired lighthouse. The lighthouse itself hadn't been in use since the 80s. It sat on this long finger of rock that jutted into the bay like a spine, unreachable by land. They wanted to determine whether the breakwater could be repaired or if it needed full replacement. My job was simple. Stay on a small anchored barge for 5 days, dive during daylight, document structural damage, then radio in my logs each night. The weather was supposed to be stable, so I agreed. They ferried me out early on a Monday and left me with a compact barge outfitted with a generator, sonar gear, fuel drums, a fold-out cot, and a dry cabin for sleep and storage. It was basic, but I've done worse. There was no cell service out there, just a VHF radio for scheduled contact. I was alone, and that was fine by me. The first 2 days went smoothly. Cold water, low visibility, and seaweed tugging at my mask. But that's just part of the job. I documented several eroded seams and some shifted support stones. Normal wear and tear for an old seawall. But on day 3, I saw something strange. While tracing a deep crack along the lower west side, about 20 feet down, I noticed a square shape embedded in the wall. It didn't look natural. I cleared away some silt and found what looked like a metal hatch bolted directly into the stone. Old iron, corroded but intact. About 4 feet tall, maybe 3 wide. No handle, no hinges. Just a flat rectangular door, set into the wall. At first I figured it was some kind of old equipment vault. Lighthouses often had fuel lines or cable runs buried into the shore. But then I saw the plaque dot. It was attached just above the door, half eaten by rust, but still legible. Do not open while lit. I surfaced and logged it, marked the coordinates. I didn't mention the inscription over the radio, figured it was some forgotten Cold War precaution. Still, I took a photo. That night, something strange happened. I was eating a heat-packed meal inside the cabin when I noticed light out of the corner of my eye. I stepped out onto the barge and looked toward the old lighthouse. A single flash from the top of the tower, then nothing. It made no sense. The lighthouse was decommissioned. No power grid, no solar, nothing. It was supposed to be dead. I stayed up a while, watching, but it didn't happen again. The next day, I returned to the same section of the wall. The door was slightly open, just an inch, maybe 2, but it hadn't been like that the day before. I'm not the kind of guy who jumps to conclusions. I double-checked the area, made sure I was at the right spot. Same depth, same markings. There was no current strong enough to move it. No underwater pressure that would force a sealed metal plate loose. I tried peeking in, but visibility was garbage, just murky black. I didn't touch it. I surfaced and spent the rest of the day inspecting a different section. That night, I watched the lighthouse again, 2 flashes, like a signal, then nothing. That time, I stayed up most of the night. I kept hearing faint vibrations, almost like a low hum carried on the water. At first, I thought it was feedback from the generator, but even after I shut it down, the noise continued. I didn't sleep well. Day 5, I returned to the hatch. It was wide open, not swinging open, not blown off, just gaping into blackness. The plaque above it had come loose, hanging by one bolt. I got close enough to feel the water temperature change. It was colder near the opening, still. Heavy dot and then something else. There was a kind of pulse coming from inside. Not movement, but a pressure wave, like the way you feel a ferry rumble through your chest before you hear it. Just a slow, rhythmic thump every 10 seconds or so. I didn't go in. I didn't want to get any closer. I marked it, surfaced, and called for an early pickup. Said there were unregistered structural anomalies that needed higher clearance. said the boat would arrive by morning. That night, I shut everything down and locked myself in the dry cabin. I didn't want to look at the lighthouse, but I couldn't help it. The beacon was glowing. Not flashing this time, just a steady, silent beam cutting through the dark. There was no generator up there, no active system, but the light was on. Then came the knocking. 3 knocks. From beneath the barge. Slow, solid, with dash on dash metal. I sat completely still. No animals could do that. No debris, either, not with that spacing, that rhythm. I stayed locked in, radio in hand, knife nearby. A few hours passed. Then came the second round of knocks. This time, from the cabin door. I held my breath, waited, finally stood, and opened it slowly. Nothing, just night air, in the still sea. The lighthouse was dark again. When the boat came the next morning, I didn't say much. I handed over my footage, my notes, and that photo of the plaque. I told them someone needed to dive deeper into the site, maybe bring sonar and a full team. They promised to file a request. A month later, I followed up. No one had gone out. The project had been delayed indefinitely. I still check the satellite view sometimes. The breakwater is crumbling, and the lighthouse sits untouched. But once, just last year, I looked at the NOAA site for marine beacons. That lighthouse has no listing, no record, like it was never there. I'm not diving near it again. I don't need to know what's behind that door, and I don't think anyone else should open it while it's lit.